On behalf of Cushman Wakefield, I would like to thank everybody's participation in this webinar regarding data center markets in Hong Kong. And a brief introduction of myself. I've been in the real estate industry for more than 30 years, and I've involved in data center transactions in Hong Kong for more than 20 years. So I grew together with the data center market in Hong Kong. So as briefly described by Amber, in my presentation today, I will give you an overview of the Hong Kong data center market in terms of the fundamentals, for example, the supply, demand, so and so. And the second part of my presentation is regarding the ways to get into the data center market from an investor's perspective. Okay, let's start with the basics. All right, in terms of the supply, in terms of the total stock of data centers in Hong Kong is altogether 8.4 million square feet as of the first Q of this year. And data centers in Hong Kong actually have two types. One is the purpose-built, talking about 4.4 million square feet. And then the second type is conversion projects. Means that the original use of the data center was not data center. It was industrial buildings or warehouse buildings, but subsequently converted to data center use because of the demand. And talking about many years ago, when purpose-built data centers was not so popular, and conversion projects was quite dominating. Talking about 10 years ago. And in terms of submarkets, as you can see on the screen, there are a number of different submarkets with data center concentration. Tseung Kwan O is the biggest market, especially in the Tseung Kwan O industrial estate. The second largest is the Kwai Chung Tsuen Wan Tsing Yi area, which accounts for 22% of the total area. And Fanling is getting more popular these days because of the new land available, and also sold to the investors for data center development. In terms of stakeholders, I would like to categorize them into three types. Just hold on a second. First of all is investors. They only invest in data center real estate. Some of them are investment funds like Goodman. Some of them are real estate developers like Carey Properties or Hong Kong Land Investment, and some are private investors like Fonds. The second category is operators. They run data centers, but they do not own the real estate. The famous names like IBM, Fujitsu, these are the usual ones. Then the third category is talking about owner-operators, and these parties own the real estate together, and they also run the data center business. And that's the majority of the data center stakeholders in Hong Kong at the moment. And in terms of the nationality, some of them are from China, some of them are Hong Kong based, some of them are US, some of them are Australian. It's a good mix of different varieties. In terms of size, the two leading operators, local operators, Sunny Vision together with PCCW, account for 30% of the market share in terms of size. And then the remaining 35% are the international providers of different nationalities. As you can see in terms of the size distribution, Sunny Vision, PCCW, and then followed by NTT, then Global Switch, Hong Kong Colo, so and so. Hong Kong is considered a favorable location for data center setup because of 6 key parameters. The first one is the power supply. Hong Kong is famous for having very stable and reliable power supply by Hong Kong Electric and also CLP. And the reliability rate is more than 99.99%. And that's very key to support the data center business. And in terms of power, Hong Kong's power cost is relatively lower than some other leading cities in the world. And I will come back to you with more details in this regard. And Hong Kong is also good at its cable connectivity. The fiber optic cables. And that's one of the key elements of running a data center. And the fourth point is that Hong Kong does not have any data center licensing requirement. I think if you got a piece of land, you have the people, you have the customers, and you have money, then you invest in a data center, you can run your business in Hong Kong without any major restrictions. And the fifth point is about the data protection ordinance. Hong Kong is well established in that regard, and that's also a key element for data center operators. And the last but not least is the in terms of natural disaster, Hong Kong is not in an earthquake zone, and apart from the typhoon a number of times every year during summer, Hong Kong is free from natural disaster. And we have completed a research report comparing the favorable factors of data center cities or locations in APAC. And Hong Kong was ranked number 4 among all these 8 cities in APAC. And let me go through the details with you. In terms of tax rate, Hong Kong was ranked number 1. We have the lowest tax rates among all the 8 cities in this region. We were ranked in the middle in terms of market size, in terms of fiber connectivity, and also power costs. But in terms of land price, we were ranked the last. That means Hong Kong has the highest real estate cost for data center setup. That's no exception. Hong Kong is expensive in real estate. Talking about power, how much an operator need to pay for power supply in Hong Kong is roughly $0.14 per kilowatt hour. And in comparison with Sydney and Melbourne, our cost is very competitive. And power consumption is one of the key considerations for data center operators, not just because of reliability, but the power consumption cost is one of the key cost item of running a data center. That's why cost is important for consideration. And in terms of existing demand, traditionally banks, financial institutions, insurance companies, telecom operators, or the airlines, they are the usual or traditional users for data center facilities. But moving forward, the trend is shifting from these traditional users to the cloud providers. And I've listed out on the screen here 5 of them. They actually account for more than 75% of the total demand in the world. And 2 of them are from China, and 3 of them are from the US. In terms of penetration of data center usage, you can see that on screen. Mobile subscription in Hong Kong is 3 times of the population in Hong Kong, and household broadband usage is now up to 94%, which is considered very high. And as a result of that, and the demand for data center facility is getting more and more. And in terms of cloud computing adoption rate for the corporates, the rate is now up, as of 19, is up to 85%. So this rate is actually increasing moving forward. Talking about power, data center need a lot of power. Talking about 5 to 6 years ago, data centers are the design spec for one rack is talking about a power capacity of 3 kVA. But current data centers are having a design spec of 6 kVA. That means over the last 5 or 6 years, power capacity has already gone up 100%. And then over the near term, this capacity is going to be 10 kVA. And this number is going to be a lot higher over the next 5 or 6 years. And if we build a data center with, say, 2,000 racks in a building of 200,000 square feet, and each rack power capacity is talking about 10 kVA, that means the building has to have 20 MVA plus 20 MVA. Why plus 20 MVA? Because the data center need dual source of power as a kind of a backup. And I can tell you that if a building, industrial building of 200,000 square feet, the normal power supply capacity is only 3 MVA. That means if a building is converted for data center use, the power has to be 6 times more than the existing use. So that's one of the constraints. And for power companies in Hong Kong to provide power to data centers, there are 2 sources. One is the 11 kV power network. For power companies to provide that, from the date of application to the date of delivery is talking about 1.5 to 2 years. If a power requirement is more than 20 MVA 1 feet, then a 132 kV transformer has to be built at the site. And the time required for that is 4 years. And in fact, this is one of the bottlenecks for converting or building a data center in Hong Kong. In terms of supply, on this chart, we have summarized all the new supply over the next 5 years, and altogether 4.16 million square feet. I think this is talking about quite substantial, 50% more than 50% on top of the existing 8 million something square feet. But some people may ask me a question: will there be an oversupply situation over the next few years? My answer to them is no, because as you can see, these new projects are going to be either for self-use by the owner, or they are kind of a pre-lease, or some of them are already under negotiation with end user DC operators. So the future is going to be quite optimum for an investor from an investor perspective. And this chart shows you a summary of the data center related transactions over the last few years. And there are a lot of activities. For example, the upper part of the chart, you can see investors are investing on data center facilities like infrared HSBC in the middle, and then Mapletree also bought a piece of land from the government earlier this year for data center development. At the low part of the chart, it summarizes the data center operators who bought real estate for data center development. The blue ones are data center operators are buying industrial buildings for redevelopment, or buying a piece of land from the government for DC development. And the red two red ones are leasing transactions, en bloc leasing for data center use. And that means in terms of the demand is kind of proven over the last 2 years or 3 years. How to enter the data center market? There are 3 ways. One is government land sale. This is very simple. Whoever pays a higher price, the land will be sold to you. And this is quite simple. And number 2 is wholesale conversion. That means buy an industrial building and do the conversion. Conversion means that the existing building structure will not be demolished, but what you need to do is to change the permitted use and pay land premium if required, and put in the infrastructure, the technical piece to make this building become a data center. And this is relatively less time required. Usually is 12 to 18 months. Then the last method is to buy an industrial building or a piece of land and build something, redevelopment. And let me go into more details on that. Government land sale. Over the last 11 years in Hong Kong, the government hasn't sold too many land for possibly for data center development. And as you can see on the screen here, those buildings are in blue, represented by the blue bars. And in terms of the unit rate per square foot, that means the AV value, you can see that year 2018, a piece of land was sold to Sunny Vision at 4,005 Hong Kong dollar per square foot. And then China Mobile in 2020 bought a piece of land for data center use at 6,000 per square foot. Then Mapletree bought their piece of land from the government at 3,008 Hong Kong per square foot. The price has been appreciated over the last 10 years or so. I'm not going to go through that again. Okay. In terms of wholesale conversion, if an industrial building has a building age of more than 15 years, then a waiver application is required, but no waiver fee is payable to the government. And here is an example of a conversion project. And Goodman owned the original property for warehouse use. And year 2013, a data center operator approached the Goodman and then proposed to change the building floor by floor to data center use. And at that point of time, the rent was talking about 50% more than a regular warehouse use. And Goodman, after securing this data center tenant, subsequently sold the building to PAG, another PE fund, in year 2015 with a price appreciation and also with a premium price, which is talking about 50% more than the price transacted for a warehouse building at that point of time. And then PAG held the asset for 3 years and subsequently sold it to another purchaser. With a compressed yield down to 3.5%, and then with also the premium for this transaction as well. Talking about redevelopment of the industrial building into a data center, actually the government has recently announced the standard rate applicable for that change of use in the land grant. And here are the standard rates applicable to various districts in Hong Kong. Here is an example of a redevelopment project for data center use. And GDS, the PLC operator, bought a industrial building in year 2018, and then at a unit rate of 3,100 Hong Kong dollar per square foot, plus the land premium required 2,100, construction cost of 4,000. Total investment for the shell itself is 9,000 Hong Kong per square foot. That's the recent transactions in the last 2 years. And here is another example of a purpose-built data center. And the developer, Hong Kong Investment, bought a piece of land from the government almost 7 years ago. Then subsequently, they decided to build a data center. And this building has been on block lease to Digital Realty last year. And the design specification is quite similar to the one bought by GDS. Let's do a very quick comparison between of a purpose-built data center on the right and also a conversion project, as I mentioned earlier. These two buildings are very similar in terms of size and also building specification, but they are commanding different rental level as of today. The one purpose-built on the right-hand side, they're currently achieving $33 Hong Kong per square foot per month, whereas the conversion project is currently receiving 25 Hong Kong dollar per square foot per month. So conversion project, because of the technical constraints and also the tenant has to bear the cost for the power supply and also the equipment. So the rent from the receivable from the tenant is lower than a purpose-built building. So kind of wrapping up my presentation, it's already over, I'm sorry. And quite a lot of people ask us, how come Hong Kong data center demand is so strong, but there are not too many sell and purchase transactions in the market? Because actually, most of the operators are not willing to sell their project because they need the real estate for running their business. And also quite a lot of data centers currently located in the Tseung Kwan O or Tai Po industrial estate are not for open market sale. There are ownership transfer restrictions. Therefore, if you are an investor who would like to buy completed projects in Hong Kong, the opportunities are quite rare. And there's another constraint about data center projects to be delivered or to be converted or redeveloped in Hong Kong. As I said earlier, providing power to data center project needs at least 2 years, sometimes 4 years. But a data center operator usually can receive a pre-commitment from their data center end users with a contract of say 1.5 years to 2 years. If a data center operator cannot promise a project to be completed in 2 years' time for their customers behind, then the deal will not go through. So the power supply is really a bottleneck for data center deals in Hong Kong, and therefore something needs to be done moving forward to resolve this kind of a bottleneck issue. So that's all for my presentation. I hope you all enjoyed that, and I'm more than happy to answer your questions on this presentation so that we can share with you more details. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sean, for an informative presentation. And thank you all for joining us. As mentioned, this presentation was recorded and will be available on our website, UOL Asia Pacific website. We hope you enjoy the presentation. And if you have any questions, as John mentioned, please feel free to email us. Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.